It started on a gray Tuesday morning, the kind where the sky feels heavy and the world seems to whisper that something bad is coming. I was sitting in the credit union's small, glass-walled office, my palms sweating against the cool desk. The banker looked confused as she flipped through a stack of papers with my name on them. I hadn't authorized anything, I told her. My voice shook, but I meant every word. Then the door opened, and in walked my stepfather, wearing that fake calm expression that always hid something darker. He placed a hand on my shoulder, gripping tighter than necessary, and smiled like everything was fine. "We're just sorting out a small misunderstanding," he told the banker. But his hand moved from my shoulder to my wrist, squeezing hard enough to make my skin burn. The pressure wasn't just physical, it was control, the same kind he'd been using for years. My mom sat beside him, pretending not to notice, pretending everything was normal. I tried to pull my hand away, but his grip tightened. The banker froze, sensing something wasn't right. When I was younger, I thought my stepfather's rules were protection. He decided what I could study, who I could talk to, even when I could use my own savings. My mom always said, "He just wants what's best for you." But it was never about what was best for me, it was about keeping me small, dependent, quiet. Every time I questioned him, he'd say I was being dramatic. Every time I said I wanted my own life, he'd laugh and tell me to be grateful. I learned to keep my voice low and my dreams quieter. Now, sitting in that bank, my stomach twisted as I realized he had forged my signature. Loans, withdrawals, all in my name. The banker cleared her throat and asked me to confirm one of the documents. I looked at the paper, then at him. He gave me a sharp look, the kind that meant don't you dare. My mom, still clutching her purse, murmured that I was overreacting, that we could talk about it at home. That word, home, made my chest ache. Because home wasn't safe anymore. The banker pushed the papers aside and leaned closer to me. Her voice was low, careful. "You said you didn't authorize any of this." I nodded. She glanced between my parents and me, then whispered words that made my blood run cold. "You don't need a lawyer, you need to run." For a second, the world fell silent. My stepfather's face turned red, his control slipping for the first time. I could see fear flicker in his eyes, the fear of losing power. I stood up, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. He grabbed my wrist again, but this time, I didn't freeze. I looked him straight in the eye and said, "Let go." The banker stood too. "Sir, if you don't release her right now, I'll be forced to call security." He hesitated, then dropped his hand, muttering something under his breath. My mom started to cry, but I didn't look at her. I walked out of that office with shaking legs, but every step felt like a piece of me coming back. The next few weeks were chaos. He tried to call, text, guilt-trip me. He said I was ruining the family, that I didn't understand how finances worked. But I wasn't the scared kid he could silence anymore. I filed a police report, handed over every forged document. The banker helped me find a fraud investigator who confirmed everything. My stepfather had been using my credit, my name, even my student ID, for over a year. He'd drained accounts, opened credit lines, and funneled everything into his failing business. When the detectives showed up at their house, I wasn't there, I didn't want to see it. But I heard later how he tried to play it off, how he shouted that it was all a misunderstanding. The truth hit him when the officer handed him the warrant. My mom tried to defend him, of course. She said he was under stress, that he didn't mean it. But the evidence was clear. He wasn't just controlling, he was a thief. The trial was long, painful. Sitting there while the lawyers spoke about me like I was a case file instead of a person was strange. But when they showed the forged signatures side by side, even my mom went silent. He wouldn't look at me once. When the sentence was finally read, guilty on multiple counts of fraud and identity theft, I didn't feel joy. I felt relief. The kind that comes after holding your breath for years. Afterward, my mom tried to reach out. She said she missed me, that she didn't know what he was doing. Maybe that's true, maybe she didn't want to know. But forgiveness isn't the same as forgetting, and I wasn't ready to go back. I changed my number, moved to a new city, started over. For the first time, I opened a bank account that was truly mine. I still double-check every transaction, still flinch when someone raises their voice too fast. But I'm free. Sometimes I think back to that day in the bank, the moment the banker told me to run. I realize now she didn't just mean leave the building. She meant run from the lies, from the fear, from the people who made me believe I was powerless. And I did. I ran straight into my own life. If you've ever had someone try to control you, remember this: you don't owe them your silence. You don't owe them your peace. The moment you stand up for yourself, that's the real revenge. Because nothing scares a manipulator more than the person they once controlled walking away stronger. And if this story made you believe in karma again, hit that like button, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever seen? Because sometimes, the best justice isn't revenge at all. It's freedom.